Welcome back to another episode of Colts Brawl. So obviously, a couple different conferences, Pac-12, Big Ten, have decided to cancel their seasons, and this impacts more than just the college football world, the NFL world. And I'm curious what impact you think it'll have. Yes, on the Colts, but also on the NFL in total. Like, what kind of impact this is going to have if half the teams are playing, half the teams are not, or however it shakes out. What kind of impact is it going to have on the NFL this year?
It's going to have a big impact. And let me start with the hypothetical spring football talk. I just don't see how that works in any way, shape, or form. I just don't see it. You're talking about not only college football having to move their stuff, but you're also asking the coaches of those college football teams in their recruiting process to halt the process. Because a lot of recruiting goes on in the spring because that's that time a little before January, February. That's when a lot of time in recruiting goes because you have that later commitment day, signing day, national signing day. But that's gonna now halt those high school guys, and now you're talking about NFL Combine, NFL Senior Bowl, NFL PA Bowl, all these other bowls that these prospects get to show, and then the draft. Like, if you start it in the spring, when are you going to start it? Early March, and then it ends in June? Like, I don't. When are we going to have the draft? When is the season going to start? I mean, what is the college football thinking? Spring football. This is gonna be a lot. I don't think it's gonna work at all. Ultimately, I just think that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten are just gonna say we're not having football at all this year, and we're just gonna look forward to 2021. And that is a huge disservice to the players that stayed, to the players that came back to school to try and win a championship, to finish their degree and do all that stuff, and they don't even get to play. And then how it also doesn't work is those recruits, the early enrollees, most of the time 4-star, 5-star players who are looking to get playing time their freshman year. What about those early enrollees? By the time they get onto campus by January, you have those seniors off the roster by December. But when those early enrollees come in, they're not going to have a spot because those seniors have not left, or the ones that departed for the NFL are still on the roster. How is that going to work? This is so much bigger than just playing a season. You are impacting high school, you're impacting NFL. There is no way that the college football can move to spring. I just don't see it.
Like, you get done in December, January normally. Well, if you're playing in the spring, they're not going to have a whole lot of time to recover, especially if they're going to the pros, right? If they're getting done in, late spring or whatever it is, I mean, it's going to change everything. It's going to change the draft. It's going to change the combine. Everything's going to change. I don't see how the timeline's going to work. I really don't. But yeah, it's just going to be weird. But with this COVID-19 stuff, some direct news that impacted the Colts. The Colts had 3 opt-outs this year. Linebacker Sky Moore was the first one, and then 2 others on the defense. Cornerback Marvell Tell, the most notable, and also safety Roland Milligan. I'm curious your thoughts, Michael, on these 3 guys opting out. Obviously, Sky Moore probably wasn't going to make the roster, but the other 2 guys were on the roster last year and contributed in different ways. What are your thoughts on Tell and Milligan opting out this year?
I think when it comes to Sky Moore, it was a very smart decision, both personally and professionally. But for him, I mean, I think I do the same thing when I look at this linebacking core and what an uncertain time it is to be without a job. Because, like we said, he probably wasn't going to make the roster. I know the practice squad extended, but I don't know if he would have made the practice squad either. I don't know that for sure. I can't say that confidently. So when you're looking at the stacked linebacker room that it was smart to opt out because at least next year he has his contract year for this year extends to next year now. So now he comes into next year with a job. That's Sky Moore. For Roland Milligan, I didn't see him too much. other than a special teamer. Now, with the addition of Julian Blackman, I don't know if he was going to make the roster. So I don't see that as a big deal either. I think, one tweet I sent out when I heard about Roland Milligan was Jordan Glasgow. Can he take that potential spot as the special teamer? I think he has a shot at it. And then with Marvell Tell, this is the biggest one so far. We still have that deadline this Thursday, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Marvell Tell, we were all expecting to provide big time cornerback depth. He has the long gadget arms. He's pretty athletic. We were expecting him to make a good jump. Without him, the Colts could extend some other avenues. Like just now, a couple hours ago, the NFL came out and said now NFL clubs can work players out as before, like with our very own Taylor Stalwart and Tavon Wilson that we just signed. We couldn't try them out. We couldn't work them out. We just brought them in for physicals and signed them. But now the NFL changed that. Now you can work players out, which which is such at a radical time because I think Chris Ballard would have liked to work them out first. But hey, man, that just goes along with the job in 2020. I think Isaiah Rodgers is a guy that comes to mind. We're definitely gonna rely on him a little bit more now more than ever or than anticipated. That's where I'm at with these opt-outs that we have.
The Colts signed a couple different players. Defensive tackle Taylor Stallworth, who most recently was with Saints. He's only 24. He's played in the league for 2 years. And then a little bit more of a veteran, safety Tavon Wilson. What do you think both these guys, we'll start with Stallworth and we'll talk about Wilson. What do you think both these guys' immediate impact on this team here in 2020?
I look at them as more as camp bodies. Taylor Stalwart, first and foremost, he's going to be a nose tackle. He's not going to be a 3-tech. He's going to be a nose tackle. I would compare him possibly to Sheldon Day, but I look at Sheldon Day as a much better nose tackle than Stalwart because Stalwart gets moved off the line pretty easily. I know when teams make a roster, they go look for a good play a player made, but when I look at the majority of his film, I see him getting moved off the line a lot rather than actually making a play in the run game. But he does give, like a Sheldon Day, he does give a lot of effort and he does have some good speed for a defensive lineman in recovering from getting shoved off the line so much. But I don't view him as a roster guy, possibly a practice squad, but that's where we envision our Robert Windsor. But who knows? Maybe Stalwart can be a practice squad guy. Tavon Wilson, the same thing for him. I know a couple of guys have come out and shown a clip of him making a big time tackle in the open space as a safety. But again, when I look at the film, I'm not seeing a whole lot of stuff. He was with the Patriots, he was with the Lions, he was getting beat quite a few times. He was mistiming his cuts. He was mistiming the routes that his man was on. So I look at him as another camp body. Now he could possibly be on the roster if Julian Blackman has to go on PUP, which you are required to miss the first 8 games of the season. Now I can't remember. I'm not sure if you have the answer, Cody. I can't remember. This was a lot. I've been taking in a lot of information from the league lately. When it comes to PUP, can you now only miss 3 games instead of 8?
That is a great question that I have no idea. I'm not sure.
Okay. I think I read that somewhere, but I don't want to mislead or misinform other people. So don't credit me for that at all. Please don't. I don't want to get clowned on Twitter. But if Julian Blackman has to miss time, which I honestly don't think he will have to, but if he does, I do think Tavon Wilson will be that replacement player. And that's where I'm at with those 2 signings.
Fair enough. So DeForest Buckner, had some goals for this year that I'm curious. I want to get your thoughts on. Um, One of them was first team All Pro. He wants the sack record, and he wants to be a Super Bowl champion. So just like Darius Leonard, he's shooting for the stars. He's the type of player that can achieve that potentially. What are your thoughts on DeForest Buckner's goals this year?
I think his goals are a lot more, I guess, I wouldn't say realistic, but when it comes to other players' goals, oh man, voice crack there. That was not cool at all. But I like his goals. I like dang again. I like his goals. For Buckner, first team All Pro, it's definitely doable. He's the second best three tech defensive tackle in the league, in my opinion. The only one ahead of him, Aaron Donald, and that's who's his competition. I think looking at their defenses combined, I know LA, they got Dante Fowler, they got a couple of other guys on that defense. I look at DeForest Buckner's defense, I see a lot more talent. And how does that help him? Well, you got to do something on a play. If you don't want to attack the secondary or the middle of the field where the linebackers are, you got to go up the middle. DeForest Buckner can make a lot of tackles for loss, a lot of sacks, a lot of plays, tip balls turned into interceptions. He can do a lot of that. I definitely see first team All Pro, and I'm definitely pulling for that. With the sack record, I definitely see it as possible because I remember Aaron Donald, I believe, having 20 sacks, I believe. And I definitely look at DeForest Buckner and I say, well, someone on this team is going to lead the Colts in sacks. And I don't know if it's, excuse me, if I don't know if it's going to be DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, because that combo, Leonard playing right behind Buckner, Buckner can just clear the road and the quarterback is all Leonard's. But for the sack record, I'm definitely pulling for that as well. It's definitely realistic. And I think he has a good shot to get a head start on it in week 1 against Jacksonville since their right guard had been released. Their starting right guard had been released, and that's the guard that oversees the three tech. So I think he has a good shot to get out to 2 or 3 sacks in week 1. Super Bowl champion, he almost came close to it. Almost came close to it last year, but now he's in a Colts uniform, and hopefully he can succeed on that goal. Where are you at with his goals, Cody?
I definitely think first team All Pro is achievable. I mean, he was a couple years removed from that, so I definitely think he's been there before. Um, it's just hard for me to put anybody and say they definitely can. They definitely will break the sack record. I should say. I definitely think he is the caliber of he can. Um, I just don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say that, especially from a three technique position. But again, like you said, he's facing some weaker competition at points, especially in the division. So maybe he has a shot. But uh, it definitely is going to be interesting to see what happens. Because he obviously can't. He can play a part in that defense, but he can't dictate whether or not they're going to be Super Bowl champions or not. So yeah, for me, I think the most achievable one is first team All Pro. And then, the other one obviously is the highest goal out there. And the Super Bowl champion can't be totally up to him. So I think he has to just control what he can control, do what he does. And I honestly think he's going to command so many more double teams. It's going to free up more guys, to get more one-on-one opportunities, whether that be Justin Houston, Kamoko Ture, Ben Banogu, even Grover Stewart, Danico Autry. All those guys are going to get more opportunities. And I think it's just maybe his sack numbers aren't going to be, well, blow out of the water, type of thing. I mean, they're still going to be good, but I don't think maybe they're going to be breaking any records. But I think just his impact on the field is going to be more than just stats will tell this year. That's kind of where I'm at with DeForest Buckner.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Speaking of this defense, there's a lot of talent. We all see it. We all look at it. Some people skyrocket the expectations. Some people keep the expectation right where they need to be. Some lower the expectations. Cody, on this defense, I am going to ask you one question. Will the Colts finish 2020, if there's a full 2020 season, Will they finish as a top 5 defense?
Okay, here we go. I'm going to actually say no. And I'm going to say no because of one position in particular. And I guess technically two positions. Just that secondary. I just can't. That just makes me nervous back there. Xavier Rhodes, we hope he's going to do well, but the last 2 years haven't been kind to him. And Malik Hooker, we don't really know what we're getting with him. We could get solid Malik Hooker from a couple years ago, or we could get, blowing coverages Malik Hooker last year. So there's just some question marks on that secondary. If that's a weakness of this defense, I would definitely say that that's it, if there is one. So I'm going to say top 10, but I don't know if I go top 5 because that means everything's going to have to click. And I think something's bound to not be as good as we think it can be. And that's just the nature of the game. Like, things are going to disappoint you. Sometimes you're going to have high expectations. It's not going to work out. And so, I still think top 10 is very achievable, but I don't know if I'm ready to go top 5 yet, just because there's a lot of question marks. If they can clean those up, I think they have the potential to be. I just think for me, it's hard to say definitively right now. Yes. Where are you at on it though? I'm curious.
I am right there with you when it comes to top 5. I'm putting them just outside. I think they'll finish as a top 8 because I look at how talented the front 7 is. I think the front 7 is going to create a lot of opportunities. I see them being very good in run defense. In 2020, I think they'll be probably a top 5 rushing defense in 2020. That's my prediction going forward in 2020. So when I'm looking at the things that can happen, looking at the opportunities this defensive line can create. You mentioned it earlier. DeForest Buckner is going to demand double teams. That is going to free up Justin Houston one-on-one. That's going to free up Kamoko Toure on third down one-on-one. That's going to free up Ben Bangu, Tyquan Lewis, Danico Autry, Grover Stewart. That's going to free those guys up. You're going to see some sacks this year. At least I hope you will. You're going to see some sacks this year. But then what about from the second or from the linebackers? Darius Leonard coming downhill. I mean, which one? What are you going to do? You going to block DeForest or are you going to block Darius? Which one are you going to do? Anthony Walker. He's not really the biggest. Eberflus doesn't really send him on blitz as much. But then, if you want to give Darius Leonard a breather, put Bobby Okereke on and bring him in. Kenny Moore. He loves blitzing from that nickel corner spot. He loves blitzing there. At the end of the year, we saw Malik Hooker a little bit more in the box more than usual. Could he have some sack opportunities? Kari Willis, we know what kind of a dog he is. Sack opportunities. Because you see the potential of opportunities that every guy is going to create for one another, I look at it as, I wouldn't say domino effect, but man, if the defensive line is just crowding and coming down on the quarterback, he throws it up, interception. Or if it's a sack, strip fumble, pick up, get back for a touchdown. Stop on third downs. I look at all of that because of the talent. Now, I'm with you on the secondary. That does give me questions, but I've thought about it more and more. I've watched more tape, and I'm a little bit easier on Xavier Rhodes because something that for some reason I didn't get in my head soon enough that he's not going to be playing much man-to-man. And if I'm Eberflus, I wouldn't play him in much man-to-man either because I think that part of his game is kind of gone because it's hard for a cornerback to just stay that great for that long. Elite years from cornerbacks don't last long in the NFL. I mean, I mentioned it earlier today on my show, Jalen Ramsey. He was an all-pro, and ever since then, I mean, he's still a quality corner, but I don't think he's the same shutdown guy he was his rookie year or year number 2. And then we're also playing zone. And Xavier Rhodes even mentioned it in his press conference that his eyes aren't going to be on the receiver or his route running anymore. It's going to be on the quarterback. So when you're sitting back in zone, when you're sitting back 6-7 yards away from your guy, and that quarterback is staring down his receiver, your guy, that's going to be a lot better for him to get a jump on that ball. I'm encouraged, but I'm still keeping my expectations solid for the secondary because they need to show me. They need to show me. They're going to go up against some quality receivers this year, but they need to see it. But I'm not ready to say top 5 yet because I think you need to get a very good cornerback in your room. Now, we don't know if that's Rocky Sin yet. Kenny Moore, he's the best nickel corner in football, but I'm not sure if he's that lockdown guy that we need him to be. So that's where I'm at on the defense. Now, getting to our last topic of the day, our game picks that we've been doing, myself, Cody, Justin, Anthony, and Peter. We've been putting these up, weekly or bi-weekly. So getting our sets, going first, I have the Colts going 7-3. The Cody has them going 6-4. Justin has the Colts going 7-3. Peter has them going 7-3. Anthony has them going 7-3 so far through 10 games. Now, our next 3 are going to be week 12 against the Tennessee Titans at home, week 13 at Houston, week 14 in that glorious new stadium in Las Vegas. So, Cody, I want to hear your picks for these next 3 games.
Okay, here we go. Week 12 versus the Titans. I think that's going to be a win. It's at home, so I think this year the Colts split with the Titans. I think they win one, they lose one. I think they win at home, they lose in Tennessee. So I'm going Colts victory there. That'll push them to 7-4. And then I think they have a good chance to go to Houston and beat the Texans. I mean, it seems like every year they go to Houston, they have good things normally happen. I mean, last year was an exception just because DeAndre Hopkins is that good of a player. But normally the Colts have had some pretty good success in Houston. T.Y. Hilton has owned Houston secondary. So I think that trend continues, and I think the Colts are victorious. They're 8-4. This is where it gets a little bit tricky for me because the Colts have struggled the last few years against the Raiders. Like, they have been shredded by Derek Carr and company. I think the Raiders are a very underrated team. I think not a lot of people are talking about them, but they have a pretty good offense. I mean, Derek Carr, say what you want about him, but I think he's a serviceable quarterback. I think he can, he's good enough where if the Colts are sitting back playing zone, he can kind of pick apart that defense like he did last year. So I actually have the Colts losing this game, especially because it's away. And I think so I guess that'll make me 8-5 for the Colts through 14 weeks.
Believe so.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's hard for me to say that after what I saw last year against the Raiders.
What is this? Week 12, I have the Colts beating the Titans. With that little bit of home crowd that we'll have, I think, it'll be on our side, and I think the Colts get it done in week 12. Now, I'm with you. The Colts, every year, we seem to walk into a season, walk into a schedule, walk into a game saying this is a lock, let's get it over with and move on to next week. Well, said that about Oakland last year, said that about Miami last year, said that about Pittsburgh last year. And look at that. We all came out with an L. So, again, until the Colts prove me wrong, like I've said many times on this show and my own, I am going to go defer the Colts. In week 13, I have the Texans beating the Colts in Houston. I know they're our rival, but I know I like Deshaun Watson. He still has some good weapons without DeAndre Hopkins. Kiki Kuti, if he can get those injuries under control. Will Fuller, we know what kind of a deep threat, big shot he is. He can still be serviceable. He has a lot of good things on his side of the football. That offensive line is getting a little bit better. I'll go with Houston. I think the Colts drop that game. And then in Las Vegas, I'm with you, Cody. I'm going with the Raiders because it's just for the simple fact that the Colts have not proven to me that they are ready to take these, I guess, parentheses, little teams, not so good teams, seriously. I mean, they always seem to drop a game or a few every year, and I'm going to go ahead and predict that because that's just what they've done in recent memory. So I have the Raiders beating the Colts in Las Vegas. That would bring me, I believe, to the same 8-5, I believe. Yeah, 8-5. Yeah, I have them going eight
Okay.
and five right now.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for them, honestly. I think 8-5 is kind of what I expected halfway through here. I mean, I think there's going to be, I don't think these games are going to be like that Raiders game. I think it's going to be close. Like last year was sort of close. But yeah, I just think the Raiders, I just can't go against them. But 8-5 is not bad. I mean, that's sitting in the driver's seat for a playoff spot, potentially division, potentially wild card. So I think that's kind of right where we are on track with where they're going to be.
All right, guys. Well, again, we are on the road to 1K, 1,000 followers on Twitter. So please, guys, if you are listening to this, give us all a follow on Twitter. Follow the Colts Brawl. Support the channel. We enjoy the support. We love you guys. You're the reason why we do this. There's nothing else from Cody, nothing else from me. You guys have a blessed week. Have a blessed time, and we will see you next week.